In this episode of Schooltijd de Podcast, we welcome our first international guests. Most companies operate in an ice-cold manner, but these guys try to make the world a little bit better. Their chill approach to business might even stop global warming.
When they met each other in 7th grade during gym class, they met as the two slowest on the track field, as the self-proclaimed slow fat kids. But these chunky children ironically became fast friends while their coach was shouting inspirational lines. But how have they changed now that they are miles ahead of the pack?
Yeah, so one of them dropped out of college almost as much as he dropped big scoops to the customers in their first store in Vermont. And the other went to medical school but found out ice cream is a much better medicine for all our problems.
They started in the crepe business, but they eventually sold the crepe out of something else. These charismatic characters don't need any icebreakers. Today we welcome the founders of Ben & Jerry, Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield.
Hey!
Wow, what an intro. Nicely done, you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. It's an honor. Our first international guest,
Yes.
as we already said. And for the first question, we would like to go this podcast a little bit back to your times in high school. And we were at the event yesterday, and you mentioned being all the way in the back during gymnastics on the running track. What were your conversations about?
Oh, God, do you think we're going to be able to make it? Are we going to get there? I can't do this shit, can you?
It was not enjoyable. I mean, it was painful for us. And we were fat. We weren't in good shape. And we were behind everybody else. And, it's not a good feeling. You don't feel on top of the world.
I mean, not only that, you're the last guy who gets picked when they're choosing sides in sports.
Yeah, with dodgeball or whatever.
Very, very bad.
Yeah. So, in the Netherlands, we have something, well, you guys have it as well, but it is the biggest nightmare for every high schooler. It's called the piepjes test. So the shuttle run test. So that's also basically our track field. So that is the biggest nightmare for every teenager that isn't an ace in sports. So that's you guys in gym class, but how would you guys describe yourselves as, pupils just in a regular classroom?
I was an outstanding student. And it's mostly because I didn't have any imagination. I was a kid that always followed all the rules. I did whatever was expected of me. I had a great memory, and I just memorized everything, and I didn't have to think about anything or figure anything out.
All right.
I was a really good student in elementary school where you could get by without doing your homework. Then once I got to junior high and high school, I didn't do my homework. I couldn't get myself to study. I couldn't get myself to crack the books. And I was doing really shitty as a kid. I was a bad student.
Was that because you came older and had less interest in school, or were the subjects getting harder while in high school, and that's why you maybe slacked a little bit?
I think I didn't have good study habits. Okay. I remember, kind of shutting myself up in my room saying, I gotta study, I gotta do my homework, and I'd stay in my room and find everything else to do, and I just couldn't do it. And then, like in elementary school, if you didn't do your homework, you had to stand up. The teacher made you stand up, and you had to give your excuse to the class as to why you didn't do your homework. And, someone saying, oh, my dog ate it. The other one saying, oh, well, the baby was crying or whatever. And I said, I just didn't do it.
You were honest.
Which was the truth. Right.
So you guys had to make the excuse to the entire class,
Yeah.
not to the teacher.
Right.
Oh, that's something very different from what we do here. Interesting. Yeah. Is that something that you also had to do? Like, is this a regional thing in the Netherlands?
Thank you. You brought me on an idea for tomorrow. So if my class is listening, no homework, guys, is an excuse standing up to the whole class.
Yeah, because I can understand the teacher. I'm also kind of sick of hearing all the excuses, How about you just tell the class, don't tell me?
I think excuses got out of hand while we are teacher now, right? In the digital age, they just make up things like, the dog ate the homework is still, of course, the classic one. But they come up with the craziest kind of excuses.
No, the creativity is still there, is very present, but so even though you guys do have like a common gym class experience, you guys were very different students then.
So we were that was the studying student part of it. I think I was still extremely shy, had no social skills whatsoever. Ben had marginal social skills?
Yeah. Right.
We were not the popular kids in class. We were not the cool kids. We were,
But Jerry was a National Merit Scholar. He was a very smart guy. Yeah. You were.
Yeah, but I mean,
small doubt.
No, to me, it talks about the difference of, you can do well in school in your subjects and scholastically, and still feel completely out of place and over your head if you can't talk to other people or just feel like you don't belong.
Yeah, so you mentioned the social part of being a teenager, and I think for us as a teacher, you teach a subject with a lot of passion, but I think for me personally, maybe also for you, more important is trying to help young adults, becoming a better person or whatever. So you mentioned, like, if you're not the popular kid in school, it can bring maybe some problems. So how, when you walk on the hallway, what happened? Or can you take us back?
When I think about it, it's a matter of, are you comfortable in your own skin? And I just was not a kid who was comfortable in my own skin.
And when did you flip the switch to becoming more comfortable?
Probably my last year in high school. I started making friends in junior high school when I met Ben and a couple of other kids. And those were the first real friends I had. And it's really kind of interesting talking about what kind of student I was. As I started to become more comfortable socially and more comfortable with myself, I was a much worse student.
Okay. So the graphics are...
Here you go, kids.
Yeah, because what I was interested in and what became important to me changed.
Yeah. So friends had a negative impact on yours. So less friends is better grades then?
Yeah.
No,
sounds like it.
No, but okay, but then again, I assume since you were a very good student that it didn't have that much of an impact, like we weren't failing classes.
No.
Okay.
I graduated very highly in my class. I went to college, and the same thing happened to me in college. I started out getting great grades in college. As I started getting more comfortable socially, my grades dropped, and I don't know how it is here, but we typically might go for 4 years of college, divided up into semesters. So over 8 semesters, my grade point average in college dropped every semester from my first through my last. Each one cumulatively went down.
Wow.
Like I say, he's very consistent.
Going down in equal steps. That's
Okay.
almost a skill. How has your social journey been as a teenager and a young adult?
As a teenager, I got bullied, and there was a time, when we used to call them the hoods in the school. They would beat me up, and it was really bad. I was learning to play the cello, and I'd be walking home with my cello, and Tommy Bolkankowitz, the biggest.
You still know his first and last name, right? The bully you remember.
Hey, remember him
Tommy,
really
if you're
well,
listening,
because he had a real big fucking fist. It was the first time I really got punched in the jaw, and it was very memorable. And then I don't know, like a few weeks later, some other kid beat me up, and I didn't tell my parents the first time, and the second time I think they could see that I was, feeling really bad, and I finally told my father, and it was kind of amazing. I mean, my father was not one of these ultra masculine guys, but he said, I'm going into the school, I'm going to the principal, and he insisted that there was a meeting with the principal and Tommy Bolkankowitz and Tommy Bolkankowitz's parents, and he puffed himself up and he said, if you ever touch my kid again, I'm going to slam my fist down your throat. Excuse me. And
with this energy. So
yeah. And he stopped. Tommy.
Oh wow! Because my next question, thank you for sharing, would be: was there someone you could talk about the situation with, but your dad was maybe, or was there also a teacher which you could talk with?
No, there wasn't a teacher that I went to at the time.
Okay.
Later on in my college, in my high school. My time at high school. I was going to call it my high school career. It's not really a career. I was not a good student, but I was really into extracurricular activities. So I was on the newspaper and the yearbook and debate club. And, a lot of times I would fake being sick and wouldn't go to school. And then I'd go to school after school for the extracurricular activities. And I became the editor of the high school yearbook. And I became very friendly with the yearbook advisor. And as a matter of fact, eventually I got married and had a kid. And both of my parents had died, and my wife was estranged from her parents, and she didn't want to introduce our kid to her parents. So so our kid didn't have any grandparents, and I had remained friendly with this high school yearbook advisor and his wife, and I was just talking with him, and there was. I mentioned that she didn't have any grandparents, and he said, well, we can be her grandparents. And wow. I said, yeah,
amazing.
Sure.
That's
and,
cool.
I didn't know what was going to happen, and they really seriously became my kids' grandparents.
Wow.
And they kept up a relationship with her, and, now she's got a kid, my grandchild, and we just went over and visited with them.
That's amazing.
It's pretty amazing.
Wow. So somebody from your school, even though it wasn't a teacher directly, it can also have such an effect on your life many years after.
Yeah. I would say, I had a much closer relationship with them than I had with my actual parents, I think.
Okay. It's also very interesting to me to see in the story to also see those glimpses of the American school system that we actually only see through movies. The debate club, the scenes of the high school bully, act like those are actually
based on Tommy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was actually
for context, we should let people know that Ben and I are not young men when we were in school. We're talking about the 1960s,
right?
So a different era.
Yeah, bloomers.
Yeah.
We learned yesterday.
Baby bloomers.
Yeah.
I was curious. Is there a teacher that you guys had that gave you kind of an example of the person that you wanted to be, or rather that you didn't want to become? Was there such a teacher for you guys on your school? Because here,
well, there was Mr. DeMott, my social studies teacher, who was mostly, he wasn't really into teaching social studies. He was into being the JV football coach, and he once, I was in his class and he was teaching something or other, and it was wrong. I mean, he was giving some statement of fact that was factually incorrect. And I said, Mr. DeMott, that's not true. And he threw a book at me. He literally threw a book at me. So I didn't want to be like him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the when the student has to correct the teacher. That is a very painful thing for a teacher.
You know what I think about, not necessarily a teacher, and I don't know how it is here, but when we were in school, and I think it's still true in American schools now, the vice principal is the person who's in charge of discipline at the school. So if you were sent to see Mr. Schick, it was not a good thing. And, you know, it was like the person who was second in command was there to really chew you out and give you a hard time. And I actually ran into somebody who's a high school vice principal now, and he said the role is the same.
So
that's part of their job.
Sometimes it's in the name, right? Mr. Schick. I would get the chills already.
Yeah, that's a good vice principal name.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, some of that's stuff that's so interesting to me is to hear Ben talk about Tommy Bolkankowicz as if it were yesterday. And my memories of junior high school and high school are so sharp as well. And the stuff that happened then is much more clear to me now than stuff that happened 2 years ago, 10 years ago. It's like imprinted forever.
It's the time in life where you get to formulate your opinions and start understanding life, I think, in a real way. So also as a teacher, we always go back to that time, I think. But maybe we make a little jump ahead to also the social impact that you guys are making, because our listeners or watchers are also high school students, you know. And we were wondering, like, we talked about yesterday also Gen Z or millennials. You're from even a age group before, and you showed that with a company in this time you can make a social impact. What would you recommend to the young people watching, maybe starting their own company, startup? What can they do in 2024?
I think you can do what you're passionate about and what you believe in. You know, that's not all you need. I mean, that is an ingredient. You also need, you know, a lot. I mean, a huge amount of hard work and focus. But, you know, what kind of my career at Ben & Jerry's taught me was that you don't have to do things the way they've always been done before. You know, I remember when, you know, the company was about to have a national public stock offering. And, you know, at the time, we felt like, you know, a business is essentially a machine for making money. And if we wanted to be of as much service to the community as possible, we needed to give away as much money as possible. And so we're having these meetings with these underwriters, and we say, we want to give 10% of our profits to the Ben & Jerry's Foundation. And, you know, these underwriters and their lawyers, you know, there's a team of like, I don't know, 6 or 8 of them sitting there on the other side of the table, and they like laugh and say, oh no, we could never do that. The street's never going to accept that. Wall Street will never buy your stock if they know that 10% of your profits are going outside the company. And we said, well, that's what we want to do. And they said, well, you know, the corporate average is like 1%. You know, maybe you could do 2%. And we said, we want to do 10. And then, you know, we go back and forth, and eventually we kind of compromised at 7.5, which became the biggest, the largest percentage of profits that any publicly held company ever gave away.
Do you maybe think that your determination in your company can also be related back to your time in high school, when maybe you weren't the cool guys, and now you try to make that into something which gives you energy to make the best ice cream company in the world? Because I don't think Tommy is doing that at this
point. Where is Tommy now?
Do you know where? Oh, yeah.
I have no idea what. You know, you probably can tell better from the outside.
But yeah, sorry, my question is still without Tommy. Like, do you think maybe parts of your high school comes back in the way you?
I think without Tommy, parts of my high school would have been better.
Okay.
Tommy, I don't think Tommy was helpful.
But did it give you energy in your company to perhaps do the 10 or the 7.5% like you just mentioned? If you
From my interaction with Tommy?
no. That maybe rephrase it for me. English teacher is gonna rephrase it for me.
And we usually ask our guests, because we ask them what if they could change something from their past, what would they choose? And usually they say something about a certain struggle they had, and they would, not want that to happen to their younger selves. But the thing is, we also know that the best versions of ourselves that we are now are made in the heat of the struggle that we went through when we were young, and I think it is trying to say, like, if we didn't have a Tommy and a not that good social skills, do you think you guys would still be as thorough in making sure not only the
get you.
The apex ones get apart?
I think the biggest determining factor from my early childhood was essentially being fat and being made fun of, and I think that made me sensitive, for the underdog.
Yeah.
For people that needed help.
Yeah.
And made me kind of compassionate toward people who, weren't being treated fairly.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry,
I think not being in the cool kids definitely helped me. When I finally did make friends and friends like Ben, I think when Ben and I started working together, we really appreciated our friendship and were totally committed to doing what we needed to do to support the business, because the other guy was working so hard. And there were times I didn't feel like doing stuff, and I thought, boy, Ben is out there driving this old truck and he's breaking down all over the place. I got to keep up my end of the bargain. And, I've talked with Ben about it, and he said he feels the same way. We were just trying to support each other and our friendship.
Yeah, that's the thing that inspires me the most about you guys' stories. It's you guys don't take what you have for granted. And hearing you guys' stories from your youth, it kind of makes me make the connection that because you guys didn't necessarily have all the best possibilities, that makes you want to make sure other people have better possibilities.
Yeah, and I want to go back to one thing you asked before about leading to the success. And, Ben talked about doing something that you're passionate about. And the reason that is so important is you're going to come across times when things are not going well and they're not going the way you seem. And, if you're just doing something because you think it's a cool idea or you think it's going to make a lot of money and things get tough, you're going to go, I'm going to try something else. But if you're doing something that is based on your own passions and your own values, that's going to carry you through those tough times because it's things you actually believe in and not something that you just kind of think on a rational way is a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very inspiring.
Very inspiring.
He's an inspiring guy.
Yeah.
So humble. So humble you are. I think we're going to go just like yesterday. At one point, you're going to end up with flavors, right?
Yeah.
And
flavors. Wait, I got flavors here. Let's eat. I've been waiting for that because
let's
the
take
ice
a bite
cream's
and
melting.
and maybe you can tell the gentleman.
Give him some ice cream.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this
Great.
is...
So
I want the same amount of big scoops you gave in the first round. Thank you so much.
So me and Hidde, we like we mentioned multiple times, we're teachers, and we also try to use our creativity in our lessons, but we can also be a bit competitive. So each of us has thought of a Ben & Jerry's flavor.
Great.
And we both, we wanted to hear you guys' opinion about which one you think. Are we going to do it about taste or?
Do you want to do our honest opinion?
Honest opinion.
We can take it. We can take it.
You have them, right?
Yeah, I have them. Yeah.
I think. Okay. we didn't produce it yet in Hellendoorn because for the people listening and watching, the Ben & Jerry's factory is in the Netherlands near Hellendoorn for the European market.
Yes.
Quick fact.
Thank you, Ben
stuff,
& Jerry's, for the fun fact. Yeah, a teacher being a teacher, right? Throwing fun facts like it's geography. Yes, we're gonna do states of the U.S. after we shut down the cameras. It happens to be my specialty, and I always name Vermont because a lot of my friends don't know where's Vermont. Okay, flavors. Honest opinion, and just think about the whole package, which ingredients are in, but also the marketing part of it. He's gonna try to pitch his for a few seconds, me the same, and then you can just give your honest opinion.
What? This is like Shark Tank.
Exactly.
Worse than Shark Tank.
Today I'm offering my new flavor for 10 million for 1% of my company. No. So they're both obviously teacher related because us teachers, this is our complete identity. Taking notes, well, this is actually kind of intimidating.
Real judge.
Well, we've judged other ice cream flavors before. Your experience.
Mine is called Happily Ever After. It is a apple flavored Ben & Jerry's ice cream, with a teacher's apple, the classic stuff. And it has it has chocolate parts all from A till F to represent the grades that are that you can get.
I like that.
And I think a teacher at the end of their hard week, after grading all the tests, that I think they can enjoy a good old pint of Happily Ever After.
So on the bottom it says Chasberry s'mores.
Yeah, we
oat cookie crumbs.
Yeah.
So what is the actual...
It's
you mind if I quiz you about this a little? What is the actual base ice cream?
Apple flavor.
So it's kind of like mushed up apples mixed together with ice cream. So you have an apple base, which is quite unusual. I don't know if I've ever had we had apple raisin walnut, which was, was that a sundae or was that an actual flavor?
I think it was a flavor.
Apple raisin walnut. So it must have been an apple base. We must have mushed up the apples. All right. So it's got an apple base.
It's in the running. Come on.
So it's got raspberries. So
the AI didn't work quite well with
You used AI? I did it all myself.
Yeah, right.
Well, so can you tell me what raspberry is?
Raspberry with raspberry swirl and some oat cookies crumbs.
Swirl. Raspberry. So the chat really doesn't refer to anything. It's just a raspberry swirl with oat cookie crumbs. First of all, we need to make it oat cookie chunks. We don't want little crumbs.
Fair enough.
Always the chunks, right?
Always the chunks, yeah.
Signature.
Gotta have a chunky.
Right.
Yeah.
So a raspberry swirl in apple ice cream with big oat cookie chunks. I can see it. I feel
like I'm actually selling it. Yeah.
Especially since I've started eating this lemon ice cream, Sunny Honey Home. Because I never used to be into lemon ice cream, but it's actually really good, and so apple ice cream is probably good too.
Maybe.
All right, so this is in the running.
It's in the running.
Maybe,
and it's got those chocolate chunks in besides.
Exactly.
Maybe in this very friendly Shark Tank, I can show mine, and then because Jerry has been quiet, and I'm keen to know on both. But also,
Ben's got opinions,
Ben already bought your so congratulations, my friend Jerry. I'm gonna focus on you. No, just kidding. So for me, gentlemen, I came up with this flavor. It's called Chalkboard Coffee Crunch. And AI messed it up a little bit with making a lot of flavors. I want to focus on the two main ingredients, which are for a teacher essential. The first one is chalk. We have wait. We have this. Have you heard about licorice? It's our Dutch
I've
sweets.
heard about licorice.
Not very popular in America, so I'm gonna want to start in the Dutch market with the factory in Hellendoorn. So coffee, because we need caffeine. We teach young adults; they are really energetic. We need some coffee, some caffeine for the coffee part. And the chalk is a kind of licorice. You can buy it in Holland. It's the form of a chalk which you write on the board, but it's also some kind of licorice. So that are the two main flavors. First, we're gonna conquer the European market, and then US is next.
You made me go first on purpose. Yours is very
I'm a marketing guy. I'm the marketing teacher.
He's got a bunch of problems with it.
Here we go. Here we go.
I should have started.
Ben. Tell me.
Well, you were talking to Jerry.
Please.
Well, there's an issue when you freeze stuff. in ice cream. And, when you freeze stuff, it tends to get harder and sometimes brittle. I think if you were to put licorice in ice cream, it would be really, really hard to bite down on. So there's that issue.
I'm just gonna. Just kidding.
The other issue is that, of course, chalk is normally white or at least light colored. Licorice is kind of really dark.
We can crunch up the chalk, for the. No,
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you gonna
I'll just
crunch
stop talking.
Well,
I'll stop talking.
if you crunched up the chalk, and so you've got coffee streusel. I'm trying to understand. I want to understand the flavor. It's coffee ice cream. That's the base.
It is.
It has chunks of licorice in it. We've discussed that.
Forget this part. It's only. Jerry, help me out.
What else does it have? Is it just coffee ice cream with chunks of rock hard licorice?
No judgment.
I appreciate the feedback. I was hoping, because you are the experts, that you can. Yeah, this is helpful, so I can add ingredients or put them out. But from a teacher point of view, I thought, coffee and chalk licorice.
That's it. That's the whole deal.
No. We can add something.
Yeah. So I think. Yeah, I think it'd be good to put in some kind of swirl in addition, and maybe if you took the chalk and made it into little crumbles like he was gonna do. You guys were just a little confused. He was crumbles, you were big chunks. If you
made it into crumbles, he didn't have it, and he was like, "Yeah, of course, Ben, I'm gonna do everything you say."
If you crumble up the chalk and kind of make it into like chalk dust, then it's not going to be such a rock hard, huge chunk that you can't
Makes
possibly.
sense.
There is an issue with ice cream and dental bills.
Yep.
Every once in a while, there's something that's really hard in the ice cream, and someone writes in, "I broke my tooth," and this is bad.
I already asked the dentist to join me on this. Thank you so much.
No, but this is great because it's not really about who had a better flavor here. It's about the process. And this is great for young people to learn, is that, first of all, you're not going to get it right the first time. You're not. And it's...
He's also talking to you.
I am sure that he's talking to me.
It's an iterative process. And Ben describes things. Ben is our flavor guy. Ben's the creative guy. And Ben talks about the process of innovation, that it's a matter of trying something, particularly if you don't know how to do it. You don't really know how to do it. You try it. You make mistakes, you learn, you make improvements, you try it again. It still doesn't work. But over time, you just keep making improvements. And eventually, we can take your flavors.
Eventually, after a very long process.
And make them into something.
Something else.
You take the example of Cherry Garcia, which is, I don't know if it's around here, but, it's one of our most popular flavors. It was a suggestion from a customer, the name. Oh. And, it was... it was to honor Jerry Garcia, the leader of the Grateful Dead. And, it was a great name, and I was in charge of making the flavors, and here I was needing to make a flavor that was worthy of being called Cherry Garcia and honoring Jerry Garcia. It took me a year to make that flavor. There were so many iterations. There's so many different kinds of cherries. I had to explore every different cherry to get the right snap of the texture of the the skin of the cherry, and then you had to have the right chocolate to go along with it that didn't overwhelm the cherry from a textural perspective, and we had to develop a different formulation of chocolate. So it was a lot of iterations.
You know what that sounds like? That sounds like we might be able to convince Ben and Jerry to come to one of our schools and, give a guest lecture on becoming an ice magnet.
I think what it means is you're going to have to retake your test.
That's perfect. Thank you guys so much for your very inspiring stories. And I've learned a lot, not only about, thinking of good flavors and working it through, but also about what it takes to not forget about the underdog when you're not one yourself anymore.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks a lot also from my side, even though my flavor has some things to work on. But
Some tweaks.
even with the flavors, I really admire it that we also can talk towards the young people. Like, if you have an idea, don't stop after 1, 2, 3 times failure, but just keep going, which sounds a little bit like the story of our lives, right? So thank you so much for the inspiration. We're gonna end the podcast here. So for the people watching or listening, thank you for watching and listening to Schooltijd de Podcast. Yeah, that's right. Gelukszoeker.
How about we try?
Ben's got it. Ben's got it.
Schooltijd.
Even better. Yeah.
Okay.
So for all my gelukzoekers and other people, thank you for listening and watching. Do your best in school. We'll see you next time. Hasta luego. Ciao. Great. Thanks,
That was
guys.
fun.
You
Thank you guys so much.
You guys are
great.
wonderful.
I really appreciate what you're doing.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for being
likewise.
true teachers.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now
For us, it's also really amazing to be here because yesterday, we were in the class and the teacher's room at 8:30, and now we get the chance to do stuff like this. So we try to do best of both
First
worlds.
international guest.
Exactly.
First
No, it's,
international.